Howdy, and welcome to Texas Front Porch. I'm your trail boss, Tex Wesson. Riding shotgun with me as always is Jason McLean. If this is your first visit, go ahead and subscribe to Texas Front Porch on YouTube. Maybe even give us that old thumbs up. And y'all be sure to share us out. Tell your friends, your in-laws, hell, even your outlaws. And don't forget to hit that little bell so you don't miss nothing. You can always catch us on Odyssey Radio and iHeartRadio. If you want to give us a shout, we're over yonder on the Facebook. Or you're welcome to shoot us an email at paracryptidencounters@gmail.com or serialpapers@yahoo.com. And if you want to be real neighborly, text us at 972-559-0988. If y'all take a liking to what we're doing and would like to support us, the super chats are open, or you can Venmo us at text6717. We look forward to hearing from you. Enjoy the show, folks. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever it is, wherever you're at. How y'all doing, folks? I finally found the right button and unmuted myself. And this show has already went off the rails, so we ought to be hitting the dirt road pretty quick. We got a good guest tonight. He's Carter. I knew I was going to screw it up. I knew it. I'm going to get him up here in a little bit, and he can correct me on his last name. Buschardt. Sounds pretty close. he's an author and a Bigfoot researcher. And y'all will find his website in the description, relic.hominoids.com. And it's very, very interesting. So y'all need to go check that out. But let me get Jason up here so he can give me hell about screwing up again.
It's relichominids.com. It's Carter Buschardt. No, you did. You said hominoids. Hominoid means hominid-like. Hominid is the actual term.
Yeah,
and oid, factoid, fact-like. Humanoid, human-like. Texoid, text-like.
Which there is no such thing.
No, there is not. There really isn't. And I'm glad for it. But
we
before
couldn't
we bring up our... I'd make certain that we got back down to one. That's all I'm going to say. But I did promise an announcement last week. And
yes, you did.
And I am allowed to say it officially. I am going to be joining the Untold Radio Network. It is on YouTube. That is Doug Hijack's channel. I will be co-hosting a show with Dr. Dean Bertram called Weird Library, and we are going to review books from the paranormal and books, and of course documentaries, articles, mostly nonfiction, but we're also going to do some fiction work from time to time.
Right.
So it is going to be on Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Central, and it will not interrupt anything here. I'm still here. Everything's still groovy. It's why we chose, one of the reasons we chose Tuesday.
Well, why do I have your 2 weeks notice in my inbox?
Well, I wasn't going to mention that, but completely unrelated account. Yeah, no, it's like I said, so
you had me excited. I thought, God, I finally got rid of him.
Yeah, no, I'm not going anywhere.
Dadgummit.
I'm like lichen. I have grown, and I'm easing into all of those many cracks you have.
I was gonna more like a fungus, but okay.
Same thing. I mean, you're taking pills for all of them anyway.
So let's get this old boy up here so he can correct me.
A lot. He's going to be correcting you a lot, Tex. Oh, by the way, first episode is the 23rd of this month. So 2 weeks time, I and Dr. Dean Bertram will be having a similar conversation. I assume that whoever's going to be running the panel will actually know where all the buttons are. So it'll be a first.
I know where the buttons are. I just don't know when to press them.
when,
How you
how,
doing, Carter?
the order of which they are to be pushed. Yeah, he's all Mr. Carter's already over here being like, no, I'm done. I'm out.
He's probably over going, what in the hell did I sign up for?
Well, I knew what I signed up for, Rex and Mason. I think we're even now, huh?
Yeah. Oh, it's just getting started.
I know. Yeah, no. Hey, I'm glad to be here. I'm really glad you all got a hold of me. I'm glad to be here. And, thanks for the $500 check. I guaranteed my appearance. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a serious talk with Rob.
Yeah. Well, the check's been post-dated to 2045, so we're fine.
Yeah, good thing I won't be alive then. So, you're safe,
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say when you get that check, you can go ahead and play tennis or basketball or whatever you want because it bounces real good.
I bet it does. So, well, you guys are from my old home state, Texas, so that's kind of good. I think it's the first Texas show I've done in the last 2-3 years.
Well, there you go. Happy to be your first.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Yeah,
welcome home.
And thanks. And we were like we were talking earlier. Before the show is I did a lot of camping in East Texas, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, and had I known what the woods were full of back then, and it'd be a whole other story.
Right.
It's good to know that they're resting comfortably down there in the East Texas, woods.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
again, we were discussing off air. That's actually the first. Again, didn't have a direct encounter, but my first foray into sort of Bigfootery, I didn't even realize I was doing it at the time. Was just outside of Nacogdoches. So. Yeah.
So did you ever see that trackway that's down there? There's a trackway that's tens of thousands of years old. It's in limestone rock, and it's I can't remember where it was. I want to say near Palestine. I can't remember, but it's a very well known geological. It's all kinds of sizes of bare human prints that were in a riverbed, and a lot of them have been chiseled up and taken by a college or something, and you just don't find much about it anymore. I know it was down there in that southeast Texas area.
I have to look into that one because we have a number of interesting formations like the Paluxy River, where you have the Creation Evidence Museum. They actually have like the Delk print came out of that area, which is a big one. But I'll look into that one. I wasn't aware of anything in the near Palestine about with that information. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I may have the town wrong, but it's on a riverbed. It's all rock, and a lot of it has been, the prints have been chiseled up, jackhammered up, and they're gone now. Many of them are gone. There was a geological department from a college, I think, was involved. There was some professor, I think maybe man of the cloth. I'm not sure how it was all tied in, but it was kind of a big deal for a couple of years. And then it just went away like all things do, just like the Smithsonian and the 12-foot skeletons. They all disappeared too,
Okay. Yeah. I do think I think you are talking about the Paluxy, and the Paluxy River, because we had human and dinosaur footprints together.
There you go. I think that's it.
Yeah, it's both in the same rock strata, but then we have some where they're actually overlapping. The Delk print being the most famous, where you actually have a theropod. I forget the name of the actual specific theropod, but a theropod print and a human print have overlapped. It's called the Delk print. They've done a lot of. They've actually scanned it with they've done a CT scan. You can actually see the compression layers where the theropod put the weight, and then where the human put its weight. So you can tell that it wasn't carved, because that was one of the big claims was, oh, these are all carved, because they were originally found in the early 1900s. But there was a guy selling carved faked prints, but everyone's like, well, because of that, all of them are fake. And it's like, no, we can tell which ones are real. We can do scans, and some of them even been cut to measure. They've actually cut them in half to see the compression layers. So yeah, I think it's the Paluxy you're thinking of.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. Well, Palestine.
Oh, trust me, I'm lucky to remember my own name. So trust me, you're fine there.
That's okay, Bob.
Bob's
We
my
actually
father-in-law's name. So
and we actually have a Bob on our crew. So
Oh,
yeah, we have a Bob and a Rob, and we have Jessica and Kristen, and then we have Jason.
Yeah,
Brian
in Texadelphia. Brian, yeah. No one's going to get the Brian reference at all for good
That's
reason.
okay.
Too.
It's okay.
yeah.
Little inside
So,
joke. Nicholas Shanahan.
Oh my
Nicholas
gosh.
Shaughnessy. I got it right. Shaughnessy.
Yeah. Finally. Only took you 12 tries.
Says you were the first person he told his Oklahoma encounter to, Carter.
Oh, Nick. Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah.
And his was one of the reports that was sanitized by BFRO. Ticked him off too. But yeah.
So I didn't know if you wanted to get into that because are you not a BFRO?
Yeah, no, I'm still with them. I just won't do reports anymore because I don't want to be a part of the falsification of data, and I'm any day they could just pull the plug and take me off. But Moneymaker's even admitted that he's adulterated some of my reports, and he's only admitted to a certain number. There's a greater number that he has tampered with, And it's just insulting because, that's the world's largest Sasquatch database, and it's corrupted. You don't know what's real and what's not. And they take anything that has anything to do with intelligence out of there. And it's insulting. I felt bad for Nick. I even gave him Matt's email, 0, nothing, just. So yeah, I felt bad. But yeah, Nick's a good guy, and he had a really great report, and the one thing they took out was the one thing that made that report. And the funny thing is, when they sanitize the report, they publish them anyway. They just take the good stuff out, And and I've talked to of course I can't name them, because that's someone will cry BS because I can't name it. I know about a half a dozen other guys that have their reports routinely sanitized or edited or otherwise adulterated somehow, and so it's very frustrating. So I've met a lot of really great people, witnesses. I've got. A half dozen habituation properties that I'm very privileged to be able to monitor. I can come and go just as long as I let them know I'm coming, and I get to watch and hear about what's going on their properties, and they're having they have relationships with these beings. It's fascinating. It's awesome. But that's why I'm still a member, because I want access to that just in case I find somebody that's got something going on. And if I'm not a member tomorrow, I don't care because I can't be a part of that. It's just, it's sad, it's very, very sad, and so you guys already knew about it.
Yeah.
See, it's common knowledge. It's just, I found out when I started researching for my books and I started going through my reports, I was going, what? Well, that's not what I put in there. The thing about me, I'm very anal retentive. I was a real estate agent for 25 years. So when I get a report, I print it. And then when I talk to the witness and fill it out and send it in to be published, I print that. So I've got 2 copies, the one that came in and the one that gets disseminated to the agents. You can just pick them and assign them to yourselves. So I have copies of all of them. And so then I'm reading the published one. I'm going, what? I'm going, that's what? What the hell? I'm looking at it, and I was blown away. Of course, I tried to contact Matt. He wouldn't talk to me, but and I was supposed to be on a podcast about 2-3 months ago. And the guy called me up and said he wanted to talk about the BFRO sanitized reports.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be glad to. He said, well, I'm going to have Matt and 3 or 4 of his other cronies on here too. So if you'll come on, I want to know that, and I'm going to let them know. And they contacted him and said, well, if Carter's going to be on there, we won't be there. And that speaks volumes right there, you know. And so I said, well, I guess you got your answer right there. He didn't even want to talk about it, you know. And he admitted to that radio host, the podcast guy, that I've only did one. Well, you know, I've got copies, so it's erroneous statement right there. So, but the other guys showed up. He didn't have me on there, and Matt canceled. He said he'd be on there, then he bailed out at the last second anyway. You know, it's embarrassing. It's just, why would you do that? You're corrupting the largest database. How do you know what's real and what's not?
Right.
You know,
well,
it's not fair. So ask away. I mean,
Well, you know, from what I understand, they get rid of anything, like you said, it shows intelligence, which I don't understand that. They get rid of anything that has to do with what we call the woo. You know.
Yeah, quantum mechanics, physics, math,
anything like that.
Yeah. Metaphysical, paranormal, language speaking. You know, Nick's report, and this is what was really interesting, is that I'll do a real short version of it, but him and a buddy went camping. I think this is about when COVID started, and it was just getting crazy and stuff. I think he was in Dallas at the time, and they drove up to Oklahoma to go camping, where he used to go camping a lot as a kid, and he took a friend with him, or 2 friends. And it was a last minute ditch, thing. They just grabbed a bag and a tent and, a couple of flashlights. And I don't know if they had much food, and no firewood and nothing. Let's just get out of here. It's just crazy. Everybody's wearing masks and you can't go anywhere and do anything. So they go up there in the camping, and they get settled in, and they build a fire. And you made a rock ring. They made fire, and they went to sleep. And all of a sudden, hear this, and they thought it's a woodpecker. Well, it was knocking, and it was bam, bam, bam. Then you'd hear it, bam, 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 further away, then real far away, bam, bam, bam. Then you hear it real close, bam, bam, bam. And it happened 4 or 5 times, and it started about 1:20 in the morning, which I knew the time because he looked at his phone and said it's 1:19. And about every 10, 12 minutes, this would go on for about 5 or 10 rounds of knocks. Be 3 or 4, and it'd stop for a while to get closer, real closer. And so then they heard something walking around and storming their camp and surrounding them and walking all around. They were all freaked out, and they were huddling together, and the rain came and washed out their campfire. So they stayed up till 2 or 3 in the morning, just freaked out, huddled together in the tent. And then they finally woke up about 5:30 or 6, and they got up. And I'm paraphrasing, it's much longer, but this is the deal. And so there's 3 guys, 3 knocks, 5 sets of 3 knocks, and it would stop for a while. Then 5 more sets of 3 knocks. So their counting is 1, 2, 3. They're telling other Sasquatch that there's 3 guys, humans, camping. They get up in the morning. And here's the funny part, 3 rocks were taken out of that rock ring and piled in the middle for the embers. What else is that but counting? And we know you're there, and it wasn't threatening. I mean, they were freaked at first because they didn't know. I think they figured it out at the end. But that's the part they took out of the report.
Mm-hmm.
It just flabbergasted.
It makes no sense. I mean,
and they published the report. They still published the report. They just took that one piece out.
Yeah,
I've got about 5 or 6 other reports that he's done the same thing too. So, but it's just not fair that the public, who knows them by all names and all rights, that they are the source for data.
Yeah,
and it's compromised. You don't know what's right and what's wrong. It's just not fair. I felt bad for Nick. He was really outraged, and so he and I have talked several times. He's got some pretty cool stuff going on.
Yeah, we had him. We actually he came on the show last week.
Yeah,
and we talked for a little bit.
Mhm.
We're going to have him back on because he's got he's right down here in my area, so me and him's going to get together and go out and thump some brush.
Yeah, no, he's got some interesting stuff going on. Some structures, and we talked about. I said you try doing some gifting, find a place that's off the beaten path, not where you always go, but find a place that's near where you go, but someplace you can find on your own and do some gifting, and maybe make a couple of little small structures or something, and see if you get a communication going back and forth. I think he has, as far as I know.
So what got you started in all this anyway?
Well, probably like everybody, in search of Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
Now, I had other events in my life at the age of about 10 that told me there's other things going on in the world, in the universe, other than what they tell us. I'll just leave it at that because that's a whole nother show. But I saw that Leonard Nimoy in search of, I went, oh my God, wow, that is cool. Yeah, and I just at that point in time, I started doing this investigations just on my own in my own kids' way of outer space, and because we were going to the moon and all that kind of stuff. So it was in the 60s, and so that just kind of got me going. And then actual cryptid research. My wife and I took a vacation up to Washington State. We went hiking in some woods in the middle of nowhere up there in the Cascade Mountains, rented a cabin, and we found a geocache box. You know what that is? That geocache game where you're given coordinates.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you go find something, and you're just using coordinates, Earth coordinates. That's all you're doing. Longitude 814-1 and latitude 3.6 and you punch it in and you go, okay, this is forest here. And anyway, I found a ammo box strapped to a tree, an old military ammo box. Mm-hmm. And first I thought I found somebody's drug stash. It was cabled to a tree. Yeah. I thought, well, I could use a buzz right now, so no, I'm gonna leave it alone. So I went over there and took a leak, and I was still looking at it. I said, I want to get into that thing. So I opened it with a twig. I'm left-handed. I opened it with a big long stick with my right hand in case it blew my hand off. I still have my left hand.
That's
my
fair.
wife was cracked up. Well, I was thinking ahead. My wife was just howling. But inside I found a business card of a BFRO investigator. And I contacted him, said, I want to research Sasquatch. I know they exist. I know they believe. I don't know how. I just know. How do I do it? So he got me hooked up on a Missouri expedition with BFRO. And the rest is history. So that's how I got into this, And so I became an investigator 2011, 12, somewhere in there. I've led 4 expeditions for him. I took over for the guy that was doing them because he was not doing the greatest job. And so that didn't sit well with him. But the first expedition I led, one vanished right in front of me. I was watching it on my thermal camera, and I went, that's not a dumb ape. My camera was, I have a nice FLIR, it was mechanically sound. It was in great shape. I wasn't stoned. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't hallucinating. Mm-hmm. Everything was fine. It was a perfect storm. And it came around this corner and just one step and then two. And it was just like a flash bulb. It just, that heat signature just exploded. And there was just like this little smoke ring, a Sasquatch smoke ring, was just dissipating in the night and it was gone. I went, what? You just look at that and you go, oh, that can't be, but it is because it just happened. I'm looking at it, So from then on, I went to the dark side, and I'm so educated and so in tune with what I think they are and what they are doing and who they are to us and all that. So that's kind of the Cliff Notes version of why I'm here right now with big giant footprints and handprints on my wall,
So what do you think they are?
Well, I think they've been here considerably longer than we have. And I think they are here to help us keep from destroying the planet. If you've read any of Lloyd Pye's book, Everything You Know Is Wrong,
Yeah.
the Anunnaki and the Sumerians, and they created the hairless humans to do their work here on the planet, mining gold. It's very involved, but basically they're here. They're considerably smarter than we are. I'm quite convinced that they can change their vibrational frequency and go from one plane, one dimension, appear to disappear, but they're still right there. They're so far ahead of us, and we probably judge their intelligence by the way they look. They couldn't possibly be smarter than we are. Look at them; it's just an ape. It's just insulting. I mean, what were we before we are what we are now? Not much different. So, but I believe they can come and go at will. I think they do. I've had two of them disappear. I've had infrasound used on me with my wife, and it was hilarious. Not really at the time it was going on, but it was. By the time it was over, I was laughing. I was going, how'd they do that? But it was awesome, and I had a witness. My wife. I took her just to prove that things do go on. And you know how it is when you take somebody to a location. I have one of those locations. Actually, one of my research areas in South Missouri was the place where I saw the one disappear. That became one of my research areas because it's very active. I've had 3 Class A published reports on BFRO from that area. I've had 100 reports published by BFRO, not counting the ones that never made it or the ones that were published and then redacted or taken out.
Right.
Oops, I didn't mean to publish that one. Not me, but Matt or whoever does his dirty work. So, there's too much going on, and Ron Moorhead did a commentary on my first book for me, and he came and looked at one of my research areas. It's probably been 10 years ago here in Missouri. Him and Scott Nelson, they were in town. They were supposed to go to Honobia, I think, and that got canceled. They got rained out, I think. And so they ended up staying in Kansas City overnight because, they're going to fly from Kansas City to Honobia, and they didn't. So they stayed, and we went and had Mexican food and went out on one of my research areas. And so we got to be friends at that point. We stay in touch. And so he was nice enough to do his commentary on my book. So, Ron's the go-to guy if you want some quantum theory, and drink the Kool-Aid, baby. That's all you got to do. Have an open mind. You don't have to believe it, but if you just have an open mind and consider all the things that are coming at you, so much that's going on cannot be explained by the dumb ape theory. It just can't. Of course, the dumb apers will go, well, if it can do that, then you must have been drinking or drugging or whatever. You're seeing things, maybe somebody pranking you, because that can't be. Well, what if it can be? I mean, you just have to consider it. You don't have to believe it. And you don't even have to tell anybody or consider it and be your dirty little secret if you don't want anybody to think you're crazy. But there's too much going on. You guys have heard it and experienced it.
When you got, of course, everybody calls it zapped. When you got zapped with infrasound, what effects did it have on y'all?
Of course, I've been paralyzed a couple of times with it, where I just couldn't get out of my bag, and I had to pee, and I had to get out of my bag, and I couldn't. But this time, my wife, she sees all the evidence and things I've got here, and she's going, "Oh, that's nice, honey. That's cute. Good little boy. You stay busy." And, it's kind of that patronizing thing she did at first because it wasn't in her belief system, but she believes I believe. So I said, "I'm going to take you somewhere. I'm going to take you to my research area down in South Missouri, Southeast Missouri." And so what happened was, and where I saw this Sasquatch walking around the corner when I was leading that expedition, I went to the other side of these woods, and you park at the top of this ravine, and you walk down this ravine about 100 yards, and then it planes out, and then it comes around the curve and it stays level. It goes to farmland and stuff like that.
Right.
So, but you can't drive. It's impossible to drive. It's all rocky and jagged and nasty. So they put a big steel gate there. So I parked my car, my SUV. I backed it in to this gate, and we're walking down. And as soon as we get there, she's getting the heebie-jeebies. She's getting her hair standing up. She's freaking saying, I want to go. No, let's just go. Let's just go. No. This happens all the time. This is how you know you're in their living room, because you feel, you feel the presence, the hackles, and that's a primitive human reaction to danger and opportunity. When you know something's around you, that's a protection type thing. So she was getting that, and I was feeling it, but I was going, well, I feel this all the time because I know they're here. The forest goes quiet and it's dead quiet, and you can hear a gnat fart. And so we're walking down this thing, and she's getting further and further into this, like, I got to go. I'm going to go back to the car. So no, you're not going back by yourself. So the car's just right up here. And I shine my light. I went, where's my car? I'm shining up at the top of the gate, and it's gone. I'm looking at the gate. My car is gone. Well, what the hell? So I'm looking at it, and then she starts freaking out more. And then I shine down at the bottom. I said, well, am I turned around? What's the deal? I shined it down at the bottom where it could not be, and there it was. And it was backed in. So it was the rear of my car, which is what you could see when we were walking down the ravine, because I backed in. Well, I shined it down at the bottom, and there was my taillights. I'm going, how'd the car get down there? She's going, the car's not down there. I'm looking right at it. She's looking at it, and there's no car. I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing the car. Then I shine the light back up on top. I said, the car's gone. How did it get down here? We didn't drive. Am I missing something? And this goes back and forth, and she's getting more and more freaked out. And I'm going, I don't know how to get there. Then I suddenly went, you son of a bitch, you're messing with me. You guys are messing with, you are freaking on it. That is awesome. And so I finally, about 2, 3, 4 times doing this, then I shine my light back up where it should have been. Well, there it is. And I shined it back down at the bottom, and it wasn't there where it shouldn't have been in the first place. But I was seeing it just as like I'm looking at you two guys right now. I saw it, and it was there, and she was seeing it, and it was where it should have been in the first place. That infrasound was just messing with me. And it was all I knew very shortly after I was going back and forth. I said, you guys, well, I know what you're doing. It was funny, but not at first,
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I was being made to see something that was not really happening. Just like if they want to disappear, they can appear to disappear. They can actually disappear. They can do whatever. Infrasound is the sound, as probably above and below the human range of hearing.
Right.
They use infrasound, can tear your guts up. They use it for riot control, especially over in Europe. They can hit those low dBs and just tear your guts up, and you're immobilized, and you're the crowds that are rioting for whatever it is, they just disperse because they're torn up.
The brown sound.
So that was like, it was just classic, and it was like, I can't describe it. That's what it was, and I'm grown ass mature guy. I wasn't high or drunk or anything. It was just, it was me and her. And so we went ahead and left right after that. She was, she'd had enough, but she was like, okay, we're good. You win. I got it.
So when people talk about mind speak, I want to get your opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, because I know I have dear friends, and I've said this 1,000 times, I have dear friends that claim to communicate with these things. But 9 times out of 10, you ask somebody, well, how do you know you're communicating with Bigfoot? Well, that's what they told me. Well, how can you be sure that it's not something else just trying to get its foothold, get its foot in the door with you, because it's a legitimate concern if because
no, that's true. Yeah. Well, for me, of course, there's satanic possibilities and other entity possibilities, not necessarily evil or satanic, but just messing with you. But when I had my moment, my aha moment, I led an expedition for BFRO in Illinois 2019. And this was the moment that did it for me. You see, there's six rocks on that log. There was, but anyway, what I'm saying is that I'll get into that story in a minute. But those six rocks, there was 5 people and my partner. So there's me, 4 expedition goers. It was a really small expedition because it was on the books and it got canceled because the guy who was going to run it, another BFRO investigator, couldn't do it at the last minute. So they were going to cancel it, but too many people bitched and complained, well, you already got my money, I want to go. So by the time they put out an APB, anybody want to do this expedition, we got to do it. We got people who want to go. So I said, man, I've never been to that part of Illinois. I'd like to do it. So what the heck? There's nothing else going on. So I said, I'll do it. By that time, there was only 4 people left, but they'd already paid their money. They were ready to go. So there's 4 people, myself and my Sasquatch partner in Illinois, Harold. So we did the expedition. We had some things. We had footprints. We had, events that happened to us and all that. But we went back in 2020, just myself and Harold, to see if that place still had the really cool vibe that it felt like it did when we had the expedition there in 2019. And we had some interesting events, a lot of structures that were not there at the time. We went to the exact same spot. A lot of structures that were there that weren't out there when we were there. So anyway, I decided we were only going to go for a couple of days because COVID had hit. So it was like on a Wednesday. And so Harold and I went, and we went back to camp, which wasn't near there. And I said, I tell you what, before we're going to go to camp, I'm going to leave a camera. I'm just going to leave a trail camera, see if I can pick up something. Chances are you won't get anything, but you surely won't get one if you don't leave a camera. You know how everybody knows how they are with cameras. So I went ahead and left a camera by this log, and so I could find it. And I went back the next morning on the way back to Kansas City. Harold lives in Illinois. He went the other way, and I went back. I was only there overnight one night. I went back to get my camera, and there were those rocks. They weren't there the day before. The 5 rocks, that one rock that's kind of like an arrow. Right there, that's me. The 4 people behind me are the expedition goers. There's one more rock at the other end down here. That's Harold. Now, Harold had a bunch of injuries. He had stroke, he had cancer, so he's not able to go through some of this really rough terrain. So he stayed in the parking lot the first night of the expedition, and he stayed in camp the second night of the expedition with the group I had the year before. So he was there, but he wasn't there. That's right. We have the 5 rocks on one end and that one on the other. Now, Harold's kind of a short, stumpy guy. I'm kind of a tall, lean guy. Well, more lean, something seems to have settled right here. But anyway.
Developed an analogy to donuts, huh?
What donuts?
Exactly.
But anyway, so I'm looking at this and I'm going, well, this wasn't here. And see, it was COVID. So we left about 2:00 the day before I found them. And that stuff wasn't there. So I went back to my car, got my camera and left it. And then I was going to come back on the way. So the only way that could have happened, and this was October during COVID, and there was nobody out anywhere. This is 2020. And this was October, and the thing hit March. So it was in full swing then. There was nobody out there. So the only way that some humans could have come along would have been get there between 2 and 5:30, because it gets pitch dark at 5:30 in fall. And so I just wrote that was not humans. And, people, nature lovers, they'll do rock stacks and all that. So I just eliminated that as even a remote possibility. So I'm looking at this rocks. I'm going, oh my God, that's us. That's me and the 4 people in this hair. I mean,
Right.
I'm just free. I'm getting the chills now when I tell the story, because I always do when I tell. Because it's just one of those knowing things, It's just one of the things And so here's the weird part, and this is where the communication thing starts. The night that we were sleeping before I went back and got my camera the next morning, my wife, 300 miles away, is watching a blue orb flying through our bedroom. And she not only saw the orb, but she also saw its reflection in the mirror. So it wasn't like a car driving by our street. It was just zipping around and doing weird shit, then it went into the bathroom and disappeared. So she saw it, and then she saw the reflection at the same time. She saw both. So it wasn't like she was seeing things. It was
right.
She saw it, and it was reflected in the mirror at the time she was seeing it. So she saw it, and I told her, well, guess what happened to me? Probably about the time that you were having your orb thing, was these beings were leaving these rocks to commemorate that they knew who we were. See, when we had the expedition, they were making racket. They were throwing twigs and little rocks at us and freaking my people out, but they wouldn't communicate. You could hear them moving around and sitting, and you could hear an occasional grunt, but they would not communicate. And then I did my samurai chatter. I did my best impression of Ron Moorhead's samurai chatter, and the woods went nuts. They were just stomping around, running around, and doing all this stuff at night. And it woke you up for sure. But I just did gibberish. I just started talking like I was on acid or something. Anyway, so now we went back last year, 2021, with 2 other partners, my local guy here and another friend up in Illinois who's good friends with Harold. We went back to that area. All the rocks were gone. The one rock that stood for Harold, it was in the place where the 5 rocks had been. So that was the first, when Harold went down there, that was the first time he was able to physically make it. He'd healed up enough so he could make it down to the tree. And so they already knew he was coming, because that rock was waiting for him. And I knew it was the same rock because I had dusted it for fingerprints the year before. And so it still, even though it had been out in the elements, it still had some fingerprint residue, powder residue on the rock. But all the rocks were gone, and just the one that signified Harold was in the place of the 5. It was like, welcome, Harold, you finally made it. I mean, you might think I'm reading something into it. It is what it is. It was just too specific.
Yeah, I mean, it's an obvious. It's an obvious, form of communication. You can't ignore that. I do have a question. We actually have some great questions that we're gonna get to after the break. But before it gets too late, I do want to ask one question. Given that we people use the term infrasound all the time, right? When talking about these things, and I wonder if infrasound is putting too fine a term on it, because again, trust me, infrasound's a thing. There's all kinds of things you can do with sound, but given the mind speak that's reported, and some of the again, the ability for you to see, if they're implanting an image of your car in your in your mind, that's what you're seeing. It feels like perhaps that goes beyond something infrasound would do, and perhaps goes into something a little bit more exotic. Why are you just using infrasound as a filler, or do you think it is sound related, or do you think that there may be something else happening?
I think there's something else happening. It's just more of a metaphorical thing. Like I'm pigeonholing that word because most people understand that. So then we can we can branch off. There is mind speak. I get messages from them usually when I'm meditating at night before we go to bed. And they are speaking, so it is mind speak. It could be hypnosis. They can make you see things that you aren't really seeing.
Mm-hmm.
They are making you see things that you need to see so that they might get away,
Right.
or avoid interacting with you any further than they are. But I am getting communications here at the house. And Tex, you mentioned something earlier about maybe there's demonic spirits. You don't know what it is that's contacting you. It could be something malevolent or otherwise, or demonic, or has bad intentions. But I get visions of where they live. I've had probably about a half a dozen of those in the last 2 years, and one this last December. And I know it's them and not something I can't say I know it, but they're showing me where they live. And it's like I'm on a conveyor belt. Are we running out of time for your break?
Oh, no, we got some time.
Okay. So it's like I'm on a conveyor belt. And I'm on this conveyor belt, and it's like a ravine, but it's more like a very small canyon. I think it is supposed to resemble the area I was in Illinois. Trail of Tears is where I was.
Right.
And the reason I picked that place, because we were asked around town, well, where's some places that we should go? Well, I'll tell you where you don't want to go. You don't want to go here, because if you go here, there's stuff going on in these woods. Grown ass men, big macho, burly hunter, macho guys. They won't even go there at night. Oh, well, give me directions, because that's where I'm going, And so that's where we went. But I'm being shown this area, and it's got little cliffs, and it's about 25 feet deep in places, and it's another big ravine like the one in Missouri, where it's just kind of jagged and rocky and hilly, and you can't climb up the sides. So I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing Sasquatch walking around, kids playing, eating, chasing bugs. I mean, juveniles. I mean, I'm watching a day in the life. And it's like I'm on this conveyor, and I'm moving, but at the same time, this stuff's going by faster than I'm moving. So it's kind of a one of these. It's really bizarre. And so, and I said, so where is this? It doesn't look like Missouri. This is our home. Clear as a bell. This is our home. I went, oh, where is this? Home. That was it. I mean, it's just, that's all I need to know. This is our home. It could be anywhere. It could be generic. It could have been generic for 1,000 different locations, looks the same way. So this past December, I was seeing the same thing. And I said, well, I don't think that's Missouri, because we had snow yesterday, and there's no snow. So it can't be Missouri. The next night, I see the same thing, and it had snow. I'm looking at, and they put snow, and we just had a dusting, and all that was there was a dusting. You could still see the rocks and some vegetation through the snow. I mean, it was just like a quarter inch, half inch. A dusting is like there's nothing. And so they did that for me. They were showing me that they're paying attention. This is our home. So maybe they're talking about my place down in Southeast Missouri. Maybe they're talking about the other place. But to let me know that they're paying attention and that I am communicating, or they are communicating with me, was that dusting of snow. It was just, how do you do that? What do you do when that happens?
Okay, I've got a question tied directly into that we're going to address on the other side of our break. We've got a 5-minute break coming up. If you're listening on Odyssey, unfortunately, we're gonna have to say goodbye to you. Or if you're listening on any of the audio apps, and you want to hear the rest of this, I would highly suggest going to Texas Front Porch, TEX' Front Porch, and logging in. Even if you can't listen live, you can definitely listen to the replay. We've got some great questions coming up from our audience. That some really interesting questions. I think that we're gonna have a lot of fun with Mr. Buschardt with. So again, if you're listening live though on YouTube, we'll be back in 5 minutes. But before we get out of here, Mr. Buschardt, where can people find you? What are some of the things they can do?
Okay, if you want to order my books, you go to www.relichominid.com, RELICHOMINID. You can order my 2 books. They're $22 a piece. They're full color. They're very, very nicely done. They're full color books and nice glossy paper and all that. I'm selling both for $35 and I'll eat the shipping. They're very good books, about 250 pages a piece. They're very nice. You can also buy my stuff on Amazon. I'm published by Beyond the Fray Publishing. You may have heard of them. A lot of people are published with them. You can go to Amazon, and my books are on Amazon with Beyond the Fray. My deal with them is I can sell my books, my color books. They take care of the Kindle and the black and white versions. So
Gotcha.
We have a nice relationship as far as that goes. So
do you have any Facebook or social media for them for people to stalk
media,
you?
You can if you just go to Carter Buschardt on Facebook, and I'm there. I've no fancy thing. I used to have a Facebook page for Sasquatch, but it just got too intermingled. SQExplorer@gmail.com. But if you find me through Facebook, I'll get right back with you. Give or take a day or two. I'm usually pretty quick about that stuff.
Wonderful. Well, Nick says that both books are great reads. So there you go. Both books are Nick Shaughnessy approved. Again, yeah, there you go. I mean, what do you do? You can't get any higher praise than that. Again, no. If you're listening to Odyssey or on any of the audio apps, we have to say goodbye to you. But if you want to hear the rest of this with Mr. Buschardt, please jump on over to YouTube, Texas Front Porch, TEX' Front Porch. And for everyone else listening, we got a 5-minute break. We're going to come back. We got some great questions that we're going to ask a lot from our audience. And I do have a little bit of a question on the last story you told. So, Tex, push that button. We'll be back in 5.
Okay.
4 minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute. Howdy, folks. Welcome back to Texas Front Porch. If you're tuning in to catch the second half over there on Odyssey and iHeart and what is Spotify and Apple and Rumble, we got a whole bunch of stuff going on. But if you're tuning in from over there, welcome. We appreciate you catching the second half of the show.
Mm-hmm.
The Q&A is just about to start, and I get scared when Jason says, "I've got a question." So normally that's Jason speak for. I got a little pushback for you, but
not always. I mean, I'm not pushing back, but
so
I'm just saying you shouldn't assume.
Well, let's get Carter back up here and get into this.
And I for those who, if you have turned from Odyssey and all the audio apps, we do apologize for being as ugly as we are. But there's no reason you shouldn't suffer the way our lovely YouTube fans have been suffering for years now. So
we both have faces for radio. What can we say?
Dude, we're not even pretty enough for radio. Don't even get started with that. So, Mr. Buschardt, when we
bring it.
All right, let's take this outside.
All right.
When we last left our hero, you were discussing how you were being communicated with these Bigfoot, that they'd shown you a picture of home, and you were trying to figure out where it was, and they had it was obviously a place in nature. They weren't living in a skyrise apartment, but it had recently snowed. You said, "Oh, well, this can't be where you live because it had just snowed," right? And then you get a later communication where they have this light dusting of snow, and for you it was that they were listening to you. They were sort of responding. My question is, doesn't that raise a red flag that perhaps they are tailoring what you are seeing to meet an expectation versus showing you what is really there?
It could have been. It ran across my mind, but it was just because they know I live in Missouri. I just felt like they knew, and they could be communicating through another dimension, another portal, and they're not really in Missouri. They could be not even in Illinois, where I think this all started. So, but that's a really good, a valid question, but it was so exact. It was exactly like I had in my mind. I said, well, it was just a dusting. I mean, our lawns were still green, here in Missouri. They hadn't quite turned yet. And so the grass was green and you could see it sticking up through the dusting. So, that's a valid question, but, whether it's what they wanted me to see because they knew that's what I wanted, or that they were just showing me that they were listening. I can't explain it, but it was
right.
But it's a valid question because, I'm not trying to convince myself, because I'm just laying there next to my wife and I'm going, ooh, I'm looking at this. I'm going, this is so cool. It's like a treat, and sometimes I get pictures of faces. Like I got several times I've had a picture of 5 different faces, 5 different Sasquatch faces, definitely different ones. And so I don't know if that is me projecting or them projecting. I have not had a daytime sighting yet, other than shadow or, something moves and you see something, but, it's out of the corner of your eye, that kind of thing. So I've not had a daytime sighting, but, so I don't know if I'm projecting or they're merely communicating, but I take the rocks and then the rock with Harold and the fact that there was 5 people with another person at the end. That's 6 of us total. It makes the circle complete in my world, because that shouldn't have happened. How does that happen?
Right.
If a couple of humans want to get away from the rat race, like Shaughnessy, down in Oklahoma, and go camping during the COVID, and they come walk right where we had walked and decide to stack rocks on this log where I happen to have my camera. I don't believe in coincidences, no way, shape, or form do I believe in any kind of coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. I met my wife. Everybody. I just don't think that is a coincidence. It's just too specific. So that's why I took those things I'm seeing and identifying with that.
Yes.
We have other weird things going on in our house. Just about 2 weeks ago, I had something tap me on my head twice while we're watching TV. About a week after that, our TV just turns off. All the other lights are fine. Everything's fine. Our TV just turns off. And we turned it back on. My wife thought that was very odd. We've had a bunch of weird stuff. I've made a list now called Strangeness in Our Home. I may put it in another book. But, as Tex was mentioning earlier, some of it could be poltergeist or impish. It could be not the Sasquatch people. I don't know. But it's just, it all started with that expedition in 2019. Just not a coincidence, but you might say, well, that's a coincidence. Because, what other word would you use? So, no, that's a good question, and I can't, I can't defend it if that's what you're looking for, or I can't. It's valid because it could be something else.
Well, and then, again, we ask questions. A lot of people, off air, they'll ask like, "Well, why didn't you do this or say this or?" And it's like, well, because we're here to listen to understand. The entire premise of this show, this entire channel, is that we are trying to have actual communication with other human beings to listen and understand. Most people today, they listen to respond. That's it. And the problem is, if we aren't talking, if we're not listening to one another, we don't get their full perspective. How are we ever supposed to learn, to grow, to actually come? We've been doing the same thing for 50 years and ain't nothing happened. So that tells us there is something going on here. And to your point, the BFRO, and again, it's not just them. I mean, I know everyone, because they're the big, they're the biggest out there. But the simple fact of the matter is, there are plenty of other groups that curate what they have. MUFON curates their accounts real tightly, and part of what we talk about here is say, hey, the fact that this curation is happening means there's other sides to all of this phenomena that makes certain people uncomfortable. They're comfortable with this stuff, but not this stuff. Well, we need all the pieces of the puzzle if we're going to put it together, right? You can't figure out if we're putting together a puzzle of the Mona Lisa or dogs playing poker, or an F-14 Tomcat, if we don't have all the pieces.
Yeah.
And so we have all these pieces, and we're like, okay, well, this is what it is. But how do you know? More than half these pieces are off the table.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've been running into out in the field is really got us confounded because I've had 2 daylight sightings. So, and the problem is those 2 daylight sightings, and well, 3 daylight sightings if you want to include a dog man, but 2 daylight sightings of Sasquatch and a nighttime sighting. Those are the only 3 that I can legitimately feel comfortable with saying they were the physical creatures.
Yeah.
Everything else that we've experienced could be wrote off as paranormal. The laughing in the woods, the missing time that I had. Now, I do think we've gotten stuff thrown at us. I do think those are probably the juveniles messing around. But there's so much other stuff. We've seen entities. We've had the electronic problems, everything like that. Had whistles but we can't we can't say that was a physical Sasquatch because we didn't witness it. And
Yeah.
we've had to narrow down so much of what we call, a physical sighting
Mm-hmm.
that because the area that we go to, Brown Springs, Oklahoma, is just wrought with paranormal activity.
Yeah.
And I mean, we found, what were they, 12, 14-inch hoof prints. And
You say hoof?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And again, we've had other people report something very, very similar. And again, so it goes back to, unless we get I do want to get to some of these questions that our guests our chat has asked. But again, it goes back to, we're here to listen and we're here to have this conversation because there is this high strangeness associated with Bigfoot. So part of the question that we're asking on the channel is all this high strangeness Bigfoot, and this is just what they are? Or is it possible that there's 2 different sets of phenomena, and that one of it is the more paranormal set perhaps wants us to think it's Bigfoot, or perhaps we're either misinterpreting it as Bigfoot, but it's separate from there's 2 separate phenomena. It's not one phenomenon we're looking at, but multiple phenomena, maybe even 3 or 4 different things all happening on, but we keep putting everything in the same box.
Well, that's got the most headlines is Sasquatch. Here's something I really push in my second book. I will put this out there. We are all educated from the day you exit the birth canal. For the first 18 to 22 years of your life, you're told what to believe, how the world is, what's real, what's not. There's no UFOs. There's no Sasquatch. Oh, wait, the government was lying. There is UFOs. And there's no this, that, or the other. So when you see or experience, hear something, you're immediately, your brain, you're taught that doesn't exist. It can't exist. That's just a guy in a ghillie suit. That's blah, 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 blah. It's all baloney. So you're immediately trying to talk yourself out of it in your head by relating it to what you do know. Well, I know those don't exist, so it's got to be a bear. It's got to be a guy in a ghillie suit. It's a deer standing up on its hind legs eating fruit off a low-hanging tree. I mean, you explain it away because that's what your mind is telling you, because that's what your mind's been taught. So generations have been misinformed. And a generation's 25 years. You take 10 generations, that's 250 years of misinformation. So you're already trying to convince yourself this stuff doesn't happen because you're told, and you're a kid. You're molded from the time you're just short of an embryo till you're walking out of college. So you can't grasp it, And as far as all these other beings like Mothman, Dogman, the Gowrow, the Pale Whites, Sasquatch, all these other beings, they could be in another dimension, and they just come to and fro to expose themselves or experience us, then they go back to where they come from. I mean, we don't know. Well, wait, that can't happen either because they told us that can't happen. So what do you do with all it? We're all confused. So, there's no really right or wrong because there's not one expert. There's not one expert. The only people that know is the government, the paper companies, and the lumber companies. They're the secret holders in the scientific community as a rule. They're bought and paid for by the government because who pays their salary? Government grants for the most part. So you see this, but you didn't see that. If you see it, you say nothing or your grant money's gone.
Right.
Cliff note, but you know what I mean? It's just, we're puppets. So, and so I've interviewed 350 to 400 people, witnesses, maybe more. And so you get a cross section of Americana. And so who's hoaxing, who's kind of quackers. But most of these people are just people like you and I. We eat, sleep, poop, go to work, have kids, family, blah, 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 blah. We see stuff. We go, oh my God. And that's us. But you start talking to these, you realize they're not nuts. They're sane, rational people. They don't want to talk to anybody because everyone makes fun of them. So the answers stay hidden because the more information you get might start giving up some answers. So that was my soapbox moment. I'll stop. But you get it.
Well, yeah, and again, that's why we're here. But while we're kind of tangentially on the topic, Brian Colsty has a great question that sort of ties into what you were just saying. Carter, have you ever received a dogman report, or what do you believe was a dogman report mistaken for Bigfoot?
Yes. The last 2 reports I did for BFRO were a Sasquatch sighting and a dogman sighting at the same time, but one after the other. And the guy, and this was in Amarugia. There's a conservation area south of where I live here in Kansas City. It's called the Amarugia. Now there is an old Native American tale. It's called the Amarugia Ridge Runner, and it's not a Sasquatch. It's a dogman. And so this guy gave me his dogman report. Him and his girlfriend went after this conservation area. They saw a Sasquatch, and the typical thing. They saw it. It was white. It was a full moon. They saw it. As they were leaving, having seen this, they saw something else walking in this field, and it was corn that had been cut, so they couldn't see from the knees down. They thought, well, is this thing coming back or what? Then he started looking at it, and it was. He said, it's just like that Brendan Fraser movie in The Mummy. That was the dog man. It was the Anubis. He described it, and it had the backward dog legs. And when it walked out of this field and out of the grass that was knee high, he saw the legs backwards. I mean, he said, it was just, I know you're going to think I'm nuts. I said, well, you just told me about a Sasquatch. Now you want to tell me something really weird? It doesn't get any weirder than seeing a Sasquatch. I said, don't apologize for seeing this because, I'm not going to think you're talking to me because I've got an open mind about this. So, tell me. And so he described it and had another report. It was almost the same thing. It was almost in the same area. The guy saw what he was certain was a dog man, that it was running away. It was within about 20 miles of this other sighting. It was just kind of weird. They were bundled together. They're probably 75 miles away from me, but just straight. If I went straight down the highway to Kansas City, I'd drive right to it. So it's just kind of odd. But yeah, I've taken a couple of those, and I can't say no. I don't know some of the things I've seen at night weren't a dog man or something else.
Right.
I can't say no, but I'm quite open-minded about it. So
interesting. Tex, do you want to get the next question?
Sure. I'm dealing with something that happened while we were sitting here talking.
I saw you were texting or mentioning a few things in text. I can ask the questions if you want to keep talking to the chat.
No, I got it. Let's see. Oh, Nick wants to know if you've heard of anything around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Had any reports over here that you've taken?
No, because I work Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Those are my 4 areas. Okay. I talked to Gabriel, down in South Texas, Bigfoot. He'd be a guy if Nick wants to get a hold of him, get a hold of Gabriel Guerrero That's his name, Gabe Guerrero, with South Texas BF Research. You'll find him, and you can email me. I'll send you his link. He's got all kinds of stuff going on. He's kind of like the go-to guy for reports down in that Dallas, Fort Worth. It's really more south, like south of Austin, down in the Hill Country and East Texas.
Mhm.
I did take a really good report in Sam Houston National Forest.
Yeah,
That's not surprising.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's basically where. I just forgot his name. Hold on. This guy had his encounter. Crockett, Davy Crockett.
Oh yeah, I think I've read about that. Yeah.
Again, if you so Nick, if you want to hear a couple of stories about Dallas Fort Worth area, we have Metroplex Monsters, Dallas Demons, Fort Worth Goatman, and other Terrors of the Trinity River available wherever fine books and trashy rags are sold. Sorry, that's a shameless plug for the episode.
Well, that's okay. I'm going to plug my shameless stuff too. So
Please,
There you
no,
go.
shamelessly plug right now. Shamelessly plug, please.
this is my first book. And are you familiar with Sibylla Irwin?
Only by
She
reputation.
does all the art. She does many. She's like a crime scene artist. She she has her own thing on YouTube now. She's got she takes people's sightings and she draws from the people's memory. So in this book, it was my first book, I had a photo of myself by a stick structure on the cover. I didn't like it. I didn't want a picture of me up there. So I said, hey, Sybil, you got anything new? And she pulled this one up. And it turns out that this creature right here, he's called Zap. Got too much reflection. Anyway, he was the being that my witness in Canada has been encountering on and off for about 40 years. I just randomly picked that photo because I liked it and it was new and I'd seen most of her stuff. So this is the second book, and it goes into the quantum, like it's a rabbit hole inside of a rabbit hole inside of another rabbit hole inside of a badger hole. So those are both my books.
Question is it an American badger or a honey badger?
Honey badger.
Because that's really okay. Because that's going to be a very different kind of hole. That's all I'm saying.
So
yeah,
if it's one of those European badgers, I expect it to have like a nice little tea set, and you know,
we've got several people asking this. Where when and I think you answered this, but I want to reiterate it. These visions or communications that you're having, you're awake when this stuff is happening, right?
Yeah, I'm just about to fall asleep, because we meditate and I listen to laying in bed. I'm just, I'm wanting to get to sleep, but I am still awake. It's like when I close my eyes, I'm seeing this movie playing on the inside of my eyelids. I know that kind of sounds bizarre, but it's just like it's a movie. It's running through, and I'm awake, and my wife is out, and she goes out like that. So, but I'm talking. I'm saying, well, where is this? Who is that? And I'm just. It sometimes I say it, sometimes I think it, but either way I transmit it, I usually get a response. So, and I'm not doing hallucinogens or any of that kind of thing. I don't want it to be anything. It just is what it is.
And so this isn't a dream state. It's in a maybe a more meditative state or a
it's an
almost a
meditative
trance state.
I'm awake. I can open my eyes and see my ceiling. I mean, I'm still awake, and I close my eyes back. And I have a hard time going to sleep sometimes, so that's why we do meditation and kind of get the REM thing going and all that.
So have you ever got? It sounds like most of these have been you've seen a forest setting. Have you had any of these that like look like a campsite or look like or underground or in a cave or anything like that? Have they shown you anything like that?
No, but the place at the Trail of Tears in Illinois and my research area, one of them here in Missouri, they're almost identical. So they could be interchanged. I mean, it's just really steep sides that go up angular. but you couldn't walk up them. You have to get to a certain area where it's washed out, then you can go up and get up on the hill. So, but it's just kind of you're walking down this long V, like an old creek bed or a place of water used to flow. It wasn't a creek bed, but it just runoff. So, but it's the same thing. It looks the same as the place in Illinois as my research area. One of them here. They're almost, you could, like I say, you could interchange them. It's bizarre, But I'm a sane, rational person. I'm not, paranoid, schizophrenic, or anything like that, which would indicate that you can have hallucinations. But other than those two illnesses, unless you're on any kind of drugs, maybe PTSD can generate hallucinations. Otherwise, you're seeing what you're seeing. And the thing that validates it is that I've talked to hundreds of people. They're telling me the same thing. Right. They're having interactions. They hear voices. Things move around in their house, and they have all experienced and are still, experiencing Sasquatch in a habituation setting. They live on their property, and so they know it's them. I mean, they've known it's them longer than I've known it's them, because they've been living with them for several generations. Some of them have, grandpa and great grandpa lived here, built the place, and grandpa moved here, and then my parents moved here, and we lived here. I mean, so it's several generations of family. So they all tell the same stories. They're all not nuts. I mean, it's the same. It's being shared familially. I mean, what do you do with that? How do you discount that?
Well, and that's just, and the thing about it is, that's what we like to do here, because just because we haven't experienced something doesn't mean that it didn't happen. So it's not right for us to judge somebody else's experience.
Can't do it.
If you do it, that's closing the door. And if we can't sit, and I still want to do this. I want to have somebody that, like yourself, has this very open-minded approach. And I want to have somebody that's in the 8 camp. And I want to sit down and have a conversation. But I want both sides to be open-minded enough to where they can go, okay, well, maybe that is that. Maybe that's not this. Stuff like that.
I'm always game, and I'm not hostile. I'm not locked into my beliefs, because I was taught and shown the ropes by apers, and it's like, ain't no way, that's nothing but just a dumb ape. That's just the way it is. I go, well, I'll tell you what I saw, and they were with me when I saw the one disappear. I had to, because I had an expedition. I was leading the expedition. I had to kind of keep it down. And we discussed it later. I didn't bring it out there in front of everybody, because it was going to be just a dogfight, because they're adamant that they're dumb apes. And I would have probably been adamant too until I saw that and other things. It just goes, okay, you can't explain it with a dumb ape,
Right.
So you just can't. Now, here's the thing. Maybe they can make you think they disappeared. Maybe they can make you think you saw something, but even that entails some kind of intelligence. Unless you're having a PTSD moment, you're seeing this creature, this being, I don't want to call them creatures, they're beings. You see them, and your mind can't handle it because you're taught they don't exist, and so you're trying to make excuses and make it go away. And so maybe that is a form of hallucination. You're in shock, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that could be. But other than that, this stuff is happening. It's happening. It's happening to thousands and thousands of people. One of the guys in my book had 6 hours of missing time with a Sasquatch. 6 hours. This is a upper echelon executive, very successful businessman up in the Northeast. And I believe every word he said. He says, I said, well, you should try regression hypnosis if you want to know. He says, I don't want to know. I like my life boring. I don't want to know what happened for those 6 hours. I don't want to know.
Well, coming from, I had just almost that long a missing time happened to me out in the field.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have a member of our team, Jessica Jones. You may have heard of her.
I know Jessica.
Okay. She
We
remote
chatted
viewed
before,
that.
actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
She remote viewed that for me
Yeah.
and says that, I was abducted. So, and the kicker is there was two of us there, and we were filming at the time. There's video evidence of what happened.
Awesome.
But I mean, not, we don't see actually what happened, but at one point, I'm guessing it's him or it's me, I don't know. But because I never held the camera, but he had the camera, and at one point there's somebody or something's got a hold of the camera and they're dashing down through the bottoms and they spin around. Neither one of us are be found. And we never left each other's hip. And that's the part of the video that I saw. Plus if you film with a digital camera that, you turn it on, you turn it off, pause, whatever, it goes in the sequence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the sequence was all jumbled up. And on last Thursday's show, we were talking about it again, and there was two people in chat that knew that are the researcher. Well, they had seen the same video. Well, they saw something that I had never seen, where he dropped the camera and ran off. And that must have happened right when I got beam me up Scotty thing going on. So, I understand the whole I don't want to know approach, because you gotta be careful what you wish for. But
Yep.
and I'm still trying to get my mind around it, honestly.
Yeah. I was taken when I was 10. The thing I was talking about earlier, when I was about 10, and I didn't know it until 2006, 7.
Right.
And I found out for an entirely different reason. I had no idea whatsoever. We should talk about that sometime. It's a whole nother show right there.
Yeah, it is.
Are you familiar with Dolores Cannon?
No.
She's a world-renowned. She's dead now. She died about 6 years ago. Regression hypnotist. She's taken hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of people under. She's kind of like Bud Mack,
right?
Painter. I was taken under by two of her students who I didn't know they were her students. Then I went under with her. You look her up. She's like credentialed out the butt. She is the person. And she explained exactly what happened and why it happened. And, I was with another friend like you were, and they were after him, not me. I was collateral damage because I just happened to be there. That's a whole other story.
I'm actually talking to Barry Littleton about that.
Okay. Yeah. Good person.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Jason, you want to? I think we got a few more questions up here.
Yeah, no, we do. In fact, so we have a series of questions by Brian Colestreet and our friend Bettina Moss. I think I can put them all kind of in the same question because they're all running along a similar line here. So, Mr. Buschardt, do you think that they are purely flesh and blood? And if so, are there different species of them, like the Gugway and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And do you think that perhaps there is because you alluded to the Anunnaki earlier, do you believe that there's some connection to the Nephilim as well?
I'm not sure about a connection to the Nephilim. Now, the Nephilim were supposedly fallen angels, but according to a few people I've talked to, that's not saying they're satanic or evil. They're just fallen ones. They were chased from heaven, or they left on their own volition. But to answer the first part of that question, I believe they can come and go from one dimension to another at will. When they're here, they're governed by the physical properties, the physical science properties of living in a three-dimensional world that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but if they can shapeshift, they can change their vibrational frequency, which I firmly believe they can. Ron Moorhead will educate the heck out of you on that stuff. Then they're ruled by that, and they can slip in and out of dimensions at will. Now, some people say that smell that is often smelled
Mm-hmm.
is a byproduct of them coming and going, appearing and disappearing.
Oh, like Nightcrawler.
Yeah, they say it's some kind of a secretion. It's just a physiological response to coming and going between dimensions. That I don't know. I've never smelled that smell. I've been with people standing right next to me. Oh my God, what is that? And I'm going, well, if it wasn't the taco I had for dinner, it's something else,
Mm-hmm.
But I've never smelled it. I've smelled a sweet, pungent smell, which others smell.
Like cinnamon?
Cinnamon, floral, almost like
Mm-hmm.
floral, gardenia kind of smell. The cinnamon is in there. It's very attractive smell, but I've never smelled that horrific smell that everyone's going. It smells like rotten garbage, eggs and feces and dead animals and all combined to one. I've never smelled that smell. It's just bizarre, and it just could be my physiology. I just don't smell it, But I've been with people standing right next to me, and they go, "How come you don't smell that?" I don't know. I mean, I don't smell anything. So, but I've been hearing lately more and more that a lot of people are hypothesizing that smell is the after effect of coming and going between dimensions. I've never really heard any data that explains that as why is that a physiological expulsion from.
Well, okay, so the reason I mentioned Nightcrawler, and this seems tangentially connected, but in the comics, officially, the X-Men Nightcrawler, the blue-haired guy, when he teleports, he actually moves through a separate dimension, and the smoke that appears when he teleports is actually him bringing a segment of that atmosphere that he's traveling through with him. So, again, to your theory, if the smell may not be something they are necessarily emitting, it could even be a byproduct of their traveling from or through the dimensional barrier, and either it is a byproduct of what's happened to the atmosphere around them, or it is a bringing of whatever location that they were in with them. If as you say that, if they're moving from dimension to dimension, then their physical properties are also changing. It may be that these other parallel dimensions, time streams, whatever that they're coming from are significantly different. May perhaps even have, different chemical characteristics for their atmosphere. And that's so. I'm just intrigued by this idea that perhaps it's not a musk or something, but perhaps it's something as a byproduct of their traveling through dimensions.
I've just started hearing that in the last few months, and the other explanation is that, well, they don't bathe regularly, they don't use soaps, and it's just, they excrement and urinate just walking down the path, and just, stuff flying and it gets all over them, and they think nothing of it. They go run into a creek and maybe symbolically wash it all off. I don't know. But I mean, that would be the more physically based explanation. Well, they don't bathe. They got that nasty hair. They're sweating. They're 500 to 1,000 pounds. They eat all this calorie. They're eating carrion and deer and ripping their guts out and got blood and I mean, so that would explain it because it's a foul smell. But that explains the physical part of it. But does it get into the physiological or the hypothetical thing of going from a dimension to another, like you're talking about? So they both kind of make sense.
I think the smell is, that's just my theory. It is either something. I believe it's like a gland that they can either control or maybe they can't control. and when they get excited, and it secretes.
Yeah.
But or maybe it's something they can control to a certain extent.
Maybe it's a way to keep you at bay.
Exactly.
My God.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So yeah.
no different than a skunk.
Which does beg the question, though: why are people smelling, again, not just the repulsive smells, but sweet smells to Mr. Buschardt's, or even not smelling it at all? Like he's just said, some people are smelling it and some people aren't, and they're standing right next to each other. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, you get my allergies going, I'm not smelling anything.
Well, I haven't smelled anything in 2 years, so
Yeah.
But
and the other thing about the sweet pungent, that is a telltale sign of, ask most mediums or psychics, of spirits, loved ones, past ones, spirits coming back and forth. You smell roses if you're, one of your loved ones, one of your parents, your mom or your dad, or somebody you're close to. You smell sweet, you smell floral things, as this spirit is coming back to let you know they're there, or thinking about you, or can see you. They're letting you know they're there, even though you can't see them, but you can sense them. And it's usually this sweet floral thing. So that's another thing that kind of gets stuck in the middle of all of this.
Yeah, and I've even heard of demonic spirits being around, and the whole fire and brimstone smell, the sulfur smell. So it leads us right back to, we don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah. Anybody says they do, there is no expert. So you have your theories and your beliefs, but that's all they are. And they may be educated theories, educated beliefs, but it's beliefs based on experience. But it's what you got. It's your reality. Nobody can take that away from you. All these people that call me with these incredible tales. The guy was 6 hours of missing time up in the Northeast. I mean, my guy with Sasquatch putting his hand through his wall and knocking him out, basically killing him and zapping him. Says, get up. And so he gets up, and he's up above. He's looking at his body on the floor. He is having an out of body experience. And this Sasquatch, this one here, stuck his hand through the window, and he, to this day, I just talked to him about 2 weeks ago. He has a dead spot right here in the middle of his forehead. That there's no feeling or sensation right here, right where the pineal gland would be, and that's where he was zapped, right there. So people are hearing that story going, "Oh yeah, right." But that's his experience. What are you going to say? You're full of crap? I mean, you can say that, but
yeah, I mean, you could.
I vetted the guy. I mean, I just, when someone's yanking your chain, he doesn't care if you believe him or not.
Right.
He's just, and the stories he's told me, I kind of got off track there, but you know what I mean? There's things that you experience, see, smell, hear, feel. No one can take that away, and that's your reality, and if you're just, what it is, you've tried to explain it in the meat and potatoes version of the world you're given from the day you're born, and you can't, then you start digging, and then you go, well, that makes sense. You don't want it to make sense, but that just happens to make sense with what you did. So you go with that until you can explain it away or experience it again and go,
One question, and then I want to get to Papa Craig C's comments. There's a lot of stuff around that as well. But Social Dilemma asked, and I think this kind of connects to the whole if they're moving through dimensions thing. It says, do you think the Sasquatch are migrating across North America? So I guess the question would be, are we seeing different groups migrate from all over the place and they're just moving everywhere, or are they staying in sort of maybe a multi-100-mile square area, but are they migrating from like Florida to the Pacific Northwest or Texas to Canada, kind of a thing?
Yeah. That goes back to the earlier question, which I got away from, is about, different species, I think they come and go through portals and dimensions at will. I think once they find an area on terra firma, Earth, that they like the skunk apes in Florida, they're shorter, but meaner and more vocal. The Pacific Northwest, they're giants. They're 12 to 15 feet. Here in Missouri, they're in the 8 to 10, 7 to 10 foot range. They really, you don't really get them toward 10, but more in the 7, 8, 8, 9. I think they like certain areas, and they may, as clans, claim an area. We have no problem if you come and go in our area, but this is my area. We hunt here, we live here, we have our families here. We are used to the type of food we can get here. In Florida, we eat a lot of crocodiles and alligators and boa constrictors. And Pacific Northwest, we eat a lot of other things. In Midwest. So I think there's a whole network of dimensions that these beings come and go through the cave systems, the dimensions. Look at them, like we said earlier, the Mothman, Dogman, the pale whites, the pterodactyls, the thunderbirds, Sasquatch, all these things that people are saying. You go to the Midwest, Mothman's all over the place in Illinois, Chicago. I mean, they're just there's reports, especially at the airport. So,
for the last year, they've been nuts.
Yeah. So why are they in certain areas and not here? Like here in Missouri, I don't think I've heard more than 2 or 3 alleged Mothman reports. May not be their neck of the woods. Maybe they have certain things they care to eat, certain areas they want to live. I mean, I don't know enough about them. Nobody knows enough about them. But it's weird that they are geographically centered in certain areas, and you don't hear about the skunk. You don't hear about skunk apes in Pacific Northwest. Rarely. Right. You don't hear about the 12 footers, 15 footers up in Canada. You don't hear about them in Florida, because I think as they are ruled by the physical properties of Earth and our dimensions, so are they ruled by their food and their habitat that they've become accustomed to. I think they just kind of like where they're at, and they don't need to travel around a lot. That's right. I don't think they migrate. My personal belief, I think if you got food, habitat, and water, safe place for your family, why move?
Right. So I'm going to tie this into another question. I really got to get to Papa C's question, because it's a really good one. So you're not thinking that, say, something that is living in the Pacific Northwest is necessarily like, hey, let's go to our summer home in the Himalayas, and then becomes the Yeti. So you think those are two different things. I guess the question would be, are they of the same species, or are they different things in your estimation?
I think they probably are different versions. Like, there's how many different deer, how many different crow, blue jays. I mean, there's certain, but I think they're all, blue jays, they're all birds. So, but I think the Yetis, they are absolutely specifically tailored to their environment. They're white, so they have the perfect camouflage. The ones here are brown, black, maybe orange, orangutan colored. They blend in with our forest system. The Yeren in China and Russia, the Yowie down in Australia, they all have characteristics that help them survive in that particular area. Now, if you get into like, okay, these beings are here to help us not kill each other and destroy the planet. Well, they may be assigned to these areas, or this is my area. I'm going to, educate the humans best I can with the powers that I have and the skills in the environment. And the ones in Florida, the ones in the Himalayas, the ones in China, they all, in Russia, they all do what they do in the specific area. Maybe they're assigned.
So they're tailored to a specific environment, sort of in the same way that you have different groups of people, right? We're all human, but if you're, someone who was born in Turkey is going to look different from Scandinavia, is going to look different from Korea.
Basically, they're different races or breeds.
Yeah. And so
I have the same theory about Dogman, because I think that's why we get so many reports of them looking different. Maybe they had to breed with other canines, and maybe that's where you get different hybrids at. So I mean, even in the area that we the two that I saw during the day, one of them was pitch black. The other one was almost like a calico cat color.
Yeah.
So, and he was fuzzy. The other one was slick haired.
Mhm.
So, it's just, I think it's like
Greaser
Jason was
dog man.
saying. It's like,
Yeah.
Huh,
And
do what?
here's the thought about being assigned to certain areas. My guy in Canada, him and his dad, they kept seeing the same ones in different places. And there's one chapter called The Hairy Spaniard. This Sasquatch was running through the forest, and it was running on all fours. It was tearing up, land. It was tearing up the rocks, trees, and it was hiding its footprints at the same time it was running through the forest. And they were going, "Where'd he go? Where'd he go?" And he would stop and stand up and show himself, kind of pissed off looking, like, "Okay, here I am." Then he'd go back to doing it. And then they would think to themselves, "Okay, God, he was over there. Where'd he go? Where'd he go?" He would stop, stand up, like he was being ordered. He was following a command that they thought in their head. Where is he? Where did he? And he would just stand up and expose himself, then go back to running or muck in the woods. We all agreed, he and I, that they were assigned to him, like these other two Sasquatch, male and female, Zap and Elysia. They were assigned to him because he kept seeing them. And if he thought about them, they would appear. And so I think, they're assigned to certain areas, like they might be assigned to certain people that they're trying to educate specifically about their purpose on Earth and what should be our purpose on Earth. It's just, it's a bizarre theory, but this one Sasquatch just kept stopping what he was doing. And it was like, really, it gave this look like, really, he was pissed. He was standing there with this look on his face, like, "Okay, here I am, happy."
Yeah.
And he'd go back and running amok. So, they could be assigned certain geographical areas, countries, or what have you, peoples. Very.
It's an interesting observation, because it does seem like that there are certain people that they seem to show up an awful lot for, and they do seem to have connections. Some of these stories even getting rather extravagant as far as locations and things that are moving. So it's as good a theory as anything else, or at least it really is an observation. It's not even really a theory. It's just saying, hey, there's a strange connection here, and I don't think you can just ignore that.
You think, to yourself, where did it go? You're just thinking, what did and boom, it stands up.
Yep.
Really? You want me to stand up again? Come on, man. Leave me alone. I got stuff.
Come on, man.
Yep.
So Papa Craig, see, I've really been trying to get to this question because it's sort of I'm going to put this one up, but I want to give a little bit of there was some broader conversation that happened with it. So about 5 weeks ago, Nana saw a Bigfoot while we were out mushroom picking. She was sitting on the tailgate and snuck the phone up enough to take 3 pictures. The photos were promptly deleted. Well, there was some other conversation about people having photos removed from their phones, images that will not download from an SD card. Like, it's the photos there, but you can't download it. Or again, images being or appearing on a camera or SD card that you didn't take.
I have one of those. You hear about them interrupting the electronic signals on trail cams. You'll have deer, blank, 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 deer.
Oh yeah.
What happened to those 3? Well, that was the Sasquatch walking across. It was zapping that camera just enough to interrupt the electronic signal. They can hear or smell the electronics. They can smell the batteries, and they can't interrupt it. There's dozens of reports of that.
Oh
the
yeah.
camera's working fine. What the heck,
Yep.
And this one here, that's a whole nother story. I want to show you something.
That's a hand?
Yes.
Yep.
Those are fingers.
Yes.
With very long nails.
Yes.
Interesting.
Juvenile. Well, that was taken from a habituation spot, another state, not Missouri. And clearest hand photo you're ever going to see, I think. And I think it's a juvenile. And the man who got that photo, he was walking on this land. He heard something following him, and he couldn't see it, but he heard it. And so he walked by this very camera, and he has a picture of him from the knee down. It showed him walking by the camera. 10 seconds later, this handprint, same camera, right behind him. It was tailing him, you know. And
probably hiding behind the damn tree the camera was on.
Huh?
Yeah.
Probably hiding behind the tree the damn camera was on.
He think he was following him. And this guy is a man of the cloth. So the truth factor is kind of way up there.
Yeah.
And so when you get pictures like this, it makes you go, okay, well, is that a snapping turtle? No. Is it you try, you know? And I've done that Google thing where you put it up and you match it with everything. Nothing. Well, I think it came up with my ex-wife. Just you know what I mean? It was just, that photo is too good to be true, and that's the problem with good photos. Well, if it's that good, it's fake. If it's a blurry one, well, that must be another blurry Sasquatch photo. How come they can blur? Well, because you're not ready to take the picture when you see it, or they can fog the camera.
Yeah, maybe they're just out of focus creatures.
They could be, you know, they could be, you know, not very photogenic. You know, I've been called ugly all my life, so I'm going to screw that photo up. Oh, here's a red circle to go around it while you're at it.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a red circle. So you know it's a Bigfoot. Brian Colstry has a great question. In your communications with these beings, have they ever explained their origins? Have you ever asked about their origins or homeland?
No, I haven't. You know, and the reason I haven't is, well, number one, I didn't think of it, but number two, I just want them to don't feel like they have to answer questions. I just want them to show me what they want to show me and tell me what they want to tell me. And what the few things I've gotten is like a year's worth of conversation. You know, the fact that I am seeing this and they're showing it to me and they're telling me this is they're communicating, and the rocks, you know, they're communicating slowly. Now, part of it I think is because I live in the city. I'm not out in the woods. You know, the Mark Twain National Forest is, you know, billions of acres here in Missouri, but I'm in a, you know, Kansas City is kind of a congested metropolitan area. So I'm not in an area where I'm unencumbered with my day-to-day living. I'm constantly got thoughts of, you know, grocery store, you know, car, oil change, you know, laundry. You got too many things in your head. So I think I might miss some of that, you know, so that's why I do all my stuff at night when I meditate. We're trying to go to sleep, you know, so, you know, I think when I get out in the woods, I have had other communication. When I go to a couple of research areas, I've had them laughing at me and throwing stuff at me and, you know, snickering. I've heard that, but you have to get away. For me, I have to get away from my cityfied surroundings. And that's why other people who are able to live in more, you know, heavily wooded areas and can get away much quicker than I can are probably having more luck. That's just my personal belief, because I'm just got too many things in my head, you know.
No, absolutely. Hold on. We have one last question. It's actually from me, from Silver Foxtrot. He's asking if I've read the book of Jasher, where God turns one group of people into something that looks like an ape. There's a lot of interesting stuff in the book of Jasher, and I think they mean this book of Jasher. Yes, I have read it. The thing is, the book of Jasher itself is actually a fraud from the middle. It's a forgery from the Middle Ages. The one that we have. This is not the one. So there's a book of Jasher mentioned in the Old Testament. This is not it. It was actually, we do know it was a forgery from the Middle Ages. However, I do find it interesting because it does look like it is a repository of Jewish legend. So not necessarily anything you can hang a hat on, but it seemed like they were collecting Jewish legend and maybe expounding on it in a few places. So it's an interesting read, but I wouldn't put too much on it.
Yeah, I've heard of the book of Jasher in the Bible. My wife is she is steeped in biblical knowledge. She can quote all the books. Now, she was brought up in parochial schools, and so she knows all that, And, so it's it's fascinating. But the thing is, you only know what they tell us. And so you've got all that garbage in your head. So number one, if you have an open mind, you got to get all the clutter and all the garbage that we've been told over the years out of there and get this other stuff in there. And it either sticks or it moves on and you get other stuff, But if you're just, going to live your life and you're not really concerned about whether there's Sasquatch or Dogman or UFOs or aliens, ETs, life elsewhere, whatever. If you're not really concerned because you're just happy with your life the way it is, well, that's fine. But people like us, we got a disease. We got to figure this stuff out. And because there is something going on. Now, I think this is an age of knowing right now. We're going to have so many tumultuous revelations, I think, coming at us, not tomorrow, the next day, but maybe next week. They lied to us about the UFOs. They're going to have to come up with some bone to throw us with Sasquatch because they can't, they can't keep that down, too much longer. So we're going to get some little bone thrown to us. So
I think we're going to be getting a lot of stuff. Speaking of a lot of stuff coming at us, Tex, what's going on with your clothing?
Oh, this is one of the new shirts from the new merchandise we just have out. It's got I've got them that says I'm actually a dog man. I'm actually a Sasquatch. Warning, don't feed the dog man. Warning, don't feed the Sasquatch. Bigfoot saw me, but nobody believes him. And then you got the logo on the back. So, all kinds of merchandise out there. Coffee cups, flip-flops, T-shirts, hoodies. Underwear.
He designed underwear, people. We were watching, like Rob and I were watching him do it, and we're just like, underwear? Seriously? No one wants Tex's face on their butt.
Well, that might be the place for it. Do you have like a dog man banana hammock or something? I mean,
working on that one.
I'm sorry I brought it up. Now I gave you a bad idea.
Yeah, don't encourage this man.
Here, I'll swap you a book for a T-shirt. I may have to.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Mr. Buschardt, for coming and putting up with
we got to have you, Carter. We got to have you back, brother.
Well, that'll cost you a T-shirt and a thong.
All right,
I'll see what I can do. Well, now wait a minute.
I would love to come back. This is the kind of conversation you're supposed to have. I mean,
exactly. Like if I'm going to send you, you know what? I'll send you a thong, but you got to model it for us.
You want some viewers, don't you? I think that would be counterproductive.
See, here's the problem: the thong is going to be used. That's the real problem here.
Oh,
just saying. Yeah.
Gosh. Well, if it's longer, I don't know. Now we're going down the other rabbit hole. But no, this is the kind of show I love because you can just talk about it. And if you had a naysayer who was, pro this and I'm pro this, well, that's awesome. As long as you can be respectful and just agree to disagree and just share thoughts, because you've got people here that are probably going, man, that guy's nuts. And somebody else is going, hey, Nick didn't like the hammock thing. I think Nick Shaughnessy there. But yeah, no, I'd love to come back. This is awesome conversation. This is how it ought to be, because it's just having an open mind.
Exactly.
And we're talking about things that people do. Are you nuts? No, I'm not nuts. I'm just certain things are explainable, and then certain things are not, and you have to go somewhere else to try to explain them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, just, let me know when you want me to come back, just, I'm around. I have no life. I just, chase, creatures through the woods, But no,
too many jokes. Please, Tex, get us out of here.
Okay, exit music.
Yeah, I have too many banana hammock comments, Tex. Please end this now.
No,
Please.
no. I got to do
But
something.
hey,
real
send
quick.
me a link so I can share this.
Okay.
Why would you do this to people? Why would you inflict this show on perfectly good people?
Because it shrinks my Christmas list down. You know, I tick enough people off.
That's a man who thinks fourth dimensionally. He's always a few steps ahead. I like
All
it.
right.
Plus, I'm a cheap bastard. I just don't want to buy a bunch of presents for Christmas, so I'll just chase everybody off, and they'll, come Christmas time. I got 3 people on my list.
Carter, you're my kind of guy.
All right.
I love it.
You guys are awesome. This has been fun. I love it. 2 hours went by like that.
Oh yeah, it did.
Although now that the banana hammock image is in my head, this is lasting an eternity. These last 2 minutes.
Yeah, sleep well, my friend. You'll
not.
have great dreams.
I'm not. I'm never sleeping again.
Yeah.
Nope. Not.
I need to post this link real quick. Come
So
on,
we're just going to
post.
stay here.
There we go.
We're just going to sit here, and while you post a link text, we have a thing. Like there's
Buy
a
my
doobly-doo
books.
below. Yeah,
Buy
buy his
my
books.
books.
We've got Carter's information, his website in the description. Y'all go pay him a visit and tell him Tex and Jason sent you. But Carter, we're going to have you back because we just scratched the surface on this stuff.
Oh, yeah, ain't done nothing. Yeah.
Me and you's going to have to talk about our little. I guess they were got the visits with the gray man or whatever the hell.
But it's and people go, okay, well now I know these guys are nuts because now they've gone from one subject to the other. But there's a reason that we experience these things.
Yeah,
there's
a connection.
Honestly, it's not because we're supposed to share and discuss it. Because right now someone's going, God, should I say something? Because that happened to me when I was 9. Somebody right now, Sasquatch, Dogman, UFO is hearing some of this and going, I got to talk to I got to call somebody. I got to talk to one of these guys because that happened to me when I was a kid. I mean, right now someone's going through this conversation. I trust it.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, and that's one of the things that we've always strived to do, is we've always strived to give people a safe place to talk about this stuff. They don't have to come on the show. They can email us, they can text us, whatever, if they just want to, talk about their encounter and maybe they're having a problem with it. Maybe they can't get their mind wrapped around it, And we're not therapists or anything, but we can give you an ear to bend, and maybe give you some insight because we've had experiences ourselves. That's if we can help one person, we've done our job.
And that's what it's really all about. I kind of bill myself as a witness advocate. You want to talk to me, I'm not going to give you your name, location, anything. Right. It doesn't matter where. It's just what happened. Because your name and your location, your age, none of that matters. It's just like what happened and when. And that's it. And you describe it, and we'll call you Bob Smith. And, nobody has to know, but you get it off your chest. You feel so much better because it's just like sitting on something that's happened horrifying in your life, PTSD, soldiers coming back. I mean, it's the same thing. You're in shock. You're going, it upsets your foundation of your own being. Some people take it such a way that it really affects them. So anyway,
it really does.
We're all here.
Well, Carter, once again, thank you very much, and we will have you back. And you be safe out there, man.
You too, guys. Enjoyed it immensely. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
All right.
Guys, y'all take care and have a great week, man. Talk to y'all later.